People love to talk about luck. They say, he just got lucky, or she was in the right place at the right time. They use luck like a crutch, like an excuse for why they didn't make it. But here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Luck doesn't choose the lazy. It doesn't show up for people who are sleeping in, skipping reps, avoiding the grind. Luck is like lightning. It might strike, but only where the storm has already been raging. It finds people who are moving, working, grinding in silence when no one's watching. You think it was luck that made them win? No, it was the years they spent building, bleeding, failing, learning. Luck just walked in at the end, then the world gave it all the credit. But real ones know, luck doesn't start the story, it just shows up at the finish line. And when it does, it better find you working, because luck doesn't respond to wishing, it responds to preparation. You can't manifest success on a couch. You can't dream your way to greatness. You have to outwork your doubts, your fears, your excuses. You have to show up on the days when nothing is happening, when no one is clapping, when the world is asleep and you're still moving. That's where the magic happens. That's where luck takes notice. It's in the early mornings when your alarm goes off and every fiber of your being wants to quit, but you get up anyway. It's in the late nights when you're tired, drained, and ready to shut it all down, but you do one more hour, one more page, one more set. That's when you separate yourself. That's when the world starts watching, even if silently. Want to be lucky? Then be undeniable. Be so prepared, so consistent, so dangerous with your effort that luck has no choice but to land in your lap. See. Most people want the reward, but they don't want the routine. They want the result, but can't stand the repetition. They want destiny to change, but they don't want to change their daily decisions. That's not how this works. Luck doesn't chase the passive, it's drawn to the obsessed. The ones who are obsessed with improving, building, mastering, not once a week, every day, whether the world is watching or not. You think Kobe Bryant waited for the playoffs to train. You think Serena Williams practiced only when the tournament was close. You think Steve Jobs invented the iPhone in one lucky brainstorm session. No, they lived in the gym, they lived in the lab, they lived in the zone. Luck didn't make them, it only arrived after they had already made themselves ready. And here's the punch. If you're waiting for luck, you're already behind. Because someone out there isn't waiting. They're creating momentum while you're hoping for a miracle. And when that opportunity does show up, when the phone rings, when the door opens, when the spotlight hits, who do you think it's going to favor? The one who wished or the one who worked? The one who rehearsed it 1,000 times in private? The one who stayed focused when no one believed in them? The one who was too busy preparing to beg for luck? That's the winner. That's the one who catches lightning because they built the tower high enough to reach it. So don't sit back and hope the universe picks you. Don't wait for someone to open the door. Start building your own. Be so relentless that luck gets tired of avoiding you. Be so skilled that no moment goes wasted. Be so ready that when opportunity shows up, you shake its hand and say, I've been expecting you. That's power. That's the mindset that turns maybe into mine. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. The world doesn't owe you luck. It doesn't owe you anything. But if you show up every day and go to war with yourself, your fears, your laziness, your doubts, then you force the world to take notice. You force luck to show up. And when it does, you don't act surprised. You act like you earned it. Because deep down, you know you did. The truth is, anyone can work when people are watching. Anyone can pretend to hustle when there's a camera rolling, when there's applause at the end, when there's validation on the line. But champions are made in the hours when no one's watching, when the room is empty, when the silence is deafening. That's where greatness is born, in the unnoticed, uncelebrated, unseen moments that most people skip because they think it doesn't matter. But every hour counts. Every single hour, every rep in the gym when the lights are off, every page written when no one will read it today, every shot taken when your hands are shaking, every early morning run when the world is asleep and you're fighting to stay awake, those hours shape your legacy. That's where you build what no one can take from you. Because the world may see the finish line, but only you know the miles. You ran in the dark to get there. You want to know who wins in the end. It's not the one with the loudest talent or the flashiest style. It's the one who shows up every single day with no audience, no applause, and no need for recognition. They grind in silence because they know something louder is coming. Results, while others post about what they'll do. These ones are already doing it, quietly, repeatedly, relentlessly. They don't need to be reminded to work because they've already decided, this is who I am now, not occasionally, not when it's convenient, not when it's easy, but every day. That's how you gain distance, not by sprinting once a week, but by running every single day. No matter how slow, no matter how tired, no matter how discouraged. And yes, it gets boring. That's the part no one talks about. The grind is not always exciting. It's not always cinematic. There's no background music when you wake up groggy and do your routine for the 100th day in a row. But that's what separates the real from the rest. Discipline is doing it when the feeling is gone. It's doing the work long after the hype dies down. It's giving your best even when you're not being watched, praised, or paid, because every hour still matters. You're either building or you're breaking. You're either investing or you're wasting, and the compound interest of effort, especially the invisible kind, is what creates unstoppable momentum. You think the greats were counting views and likes while they were building their craft. You think Jordan skipped practice because the game wasn't until next week. You think Elon Musk built Tesla by showing up once a week when he felt inspired. No, they buried themselves in the process. They married the grind. They put in 10,000 invisible hours before anyone knew their name. They made every hour count, not because it was glamorous, but because it was necessary. And that's what you need to understand. It's not about showing the world what you're doing, it's about becoming someone the world can't ignore. So you keep showing up, even when it's quiet, even when your effort feels like it's floating in the void. You do the reps when no one's in the gym. You study when your friends are partying. You work on your vision when everyone else is binge-watching distraction. Because you're not doing it for attention, you're doing it for transformation. You're building something inside you that can't be undone by doubt or delay. And when your time finally comes, when the world suddenly discovers you, they'll call it overnight success. But you'll know it was never overnight. It was hour by hour, day by day, sacrifice by sacrifice. Don't underestimate the power of one disciplined hour. Don't think because it's quiet, it's not working. Growth doesn't make noise. Mastery doesn't announce itself. It happens, in the stillness, in the repetition, in the quiet hours when most people choose comfort over progress. So protect those hours, own them, respect them, because that's where the war is won. Not in the moment they see you, but in the years they didn't. That's the secret. That's the edge. That's what they'll never understand. Every hour you commit while they relax, every second you sacrifice while they scroll, every lonely morning, every ignored effort, it's all stacking, quietly, steadily, until one day, you wake up and the gap between you and everyone else is no longer close. It's impossible to ignore. And when they ask you how you did it, just smile and say, I made every hour count. Mastery isn't found in crowded rooms. It isn't built in front of cheering fans or noisy audiences. It's earned in the cold, lonely silence of isolation behind closed doors, in forgotten corners, in those invisible moments where most people would rather quit. If you want to be great, truly great, you have to get comfortable being alone, not because you hate people, not because you're antisocial, but because the work you need to do requires focus that the world can't offer. Because the level you're aiming for can't be reached with distractions buzzing around or validation lighting your phone screen. Mastery isn't glamorous, it's gritty, it's brutal. It demands hours no one sees, sacrifices no one applauds, and pain no one understands. But that's the point. If they could understand it, they'd be doing it to. The world sees highlights. But you feel the hours. The hours when it's just you and the grind, you and the weights, you and the keyboard, you and the late night studying, you and the silence. That silence is heavy. It presses against you. It whispers doubts into your mind. It makes you question yourself. Is it even working? Am I wasting my time? Why am I doing this alone? But the ones who endure that silence, who learn to thrive in it, they're the ones who come out dangerous, because they didn't need applause to keep going. They didn't need company to stay focused. They didn't need a spotlight to keep pushing. They kept going because something inside them refused to stop. Isolation becomes your forge. It's where the noise disappears and the real questions begin. How bad do you want this? What are you willing to sacrifice? Are you still willing to show up when there's no recognition at all? If your answer is yes, that's where mastery begins. Because the world rewards the results, not the routine. But in isolation, it's the routine that makes you a weapon. You show up at 5 a.m. not for followers, but for foundation. You train late not for likes, but for legacy. You study when it's dark, not for degrees, but for domination. You're building something the world can't see yet. And that's why you must stay hidden, until you're too sharp to ignore. Yes, people will forget about you while you're working. Let them scroll past you. Let them move on. While they chase attention, you're chasing evolution. While they talk, you build. While they sleep, you sharpen. That's what isolation does. It separates the loud from the lethal, because loud fades, but lethal lasts. And when you finally emerge, when the world sees what you've become, they'll call you gifted, talented, born for this. But you'll know better. You'll remember the nights you cried, the hours you bled, the moments you were one step from giving up but didn't. Because isolation didn't destroy you, it refined you. It teaches you patience, teaches you self-reliance, teaches you to stop waiting for someone to save you and start becoming your own hero. You learn how to depend on yourself, how to push yourself, how to motivate yourself when no one else will. You stop waiting for perfect timing, you stop needing outside permission. You move even when no one's looking. That's how you become dangerous. That's how you become great. Not in crowds, but in corners. Not in comfort, but in chaos. Not with noise, but with clarity. And when you finally rise, when you step into the light after all those invisible years, people won't recognize you. They'll be shocked. They'll say, "Where did this come from?" But you'll know. You'll remember the silence, the empty rooms, the lonely reps, the late nights when the only voice you had was your own. You'll remember how isolation nearly broke you, but instead, it built a version of you the world was never ready for. Because mastery doesn't ask for a crowd. It doesn't beg to be seen. It just shows up one day, so refined, so powerful, so unstoppable that no one can ignore it anymore. So if you're in isolation right now, don't run from it, don't hate it, embrace it, use it, let it shape you. Let it strip you of weakness, laziness, and excuses. Let it turn you into something elite, because this is the season the crowd forgets you. But it's also the season you become unforgettable. There's a moment in every fighter's journey when hope isn't enough anymore. When vision boards and feel-good quotes don't push you out of bed. When dreaming alone can't carry the weight of what you're building. That's when hope has to step aside and obsession takes over. Not the kind of obsession they warn you about. Not toxic, not reckless, but the pure, raw, all-consuming fire that says, "This is all I think about, all I care about, all I'm willing to die building." That's what separates the interested from the committed. The ones who want it someday from the ones who need it every single day. Obsession doesn't wait for motivation. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't stop at failure. Obsession isn't emotional, it's inevitable. Because once you cross that line, there's no going back. Hope whispers, "Maybe someday." Obsession demands, "Right now." Hope looks for signs. Obsession creates them. Hope tries. Obsession does. When you're obsessed, you don't need balance, because balance is for people who are okay with mediocrity. But if you want to be great, if you want to build something the world can't ignore, then obsession isn't a flaw, it's a requirement. Ask Kobe, ask Elon, ask anyone who's ever changed the game. They didn't hope to be great. They refused to be anything less. They gave everything. Their time, their energy, their comfort, their peace, even their sanity sometimes. Not because they were crazy, but because they were focused, tunnel vision, nothing else mattered more. And that level of obsession, that's what brings results so massive they call it luck. But you'll know better. You'll know it was war. We'll try to talk you out of it. They'll say you need to slow down, take a break, live a little. They'll tell you to be realistic, to think about what might not work. Ignore them. Let them live in realistic. You weren't born for average. You weren't built for background noise. You were made for the main stage. And obsession is the vehicle that gets you there. Because when you want something bad enough, when it keeps you awake at night, when it invades your every thought, when it becomes your oxygen, that's when you stop hoping for success and start chasing it down like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. Your future life, the one you're building, the one that doesn't exist yet but will, if you stay obsessed enough to bring it to life. Obsession gives you clarity. When you're obsessed, distractions disappear. People's opinions lose their power. Excuses evaporate. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop debating whether today is a good day to grind. You just grind, period. Because this isn't a phase. It's not a mood. It's who you are now. You become so fixated on your mission that there's no room for comfort. No time for self-pity. No space for doubt. You're either moving forward, or you're getting left behind. That's the law of obsession. It's either feeding your fire or burning your time. There is no middle ground, and yes, it's lonely. Obsession will isolate you. It'll make you the odd one out. The one who's too intense, too serious, too focused. Let them say that. Let them misunderstand you. They always do in the beginning. But when the results show up, when your obsession becomes undeniable, those same people will come back asking how you did it. They won't realize the cost. They won't see the hours you worked while they slept, the weekends you sacrificed, the birthdays you missed, the parties you skipped, the relationships you lost, but you'll know. You'll remember, because obsession may demand everything, but it gives everything back, with interest. So drop the hope. Stop waiting for stars to align. Stop waiting for luck to knock. Start building like it's already yours. Start moving like you refuse to lose. Let every step be intentional. Let every hour be intense. Let every thought bend toward one goal. Become so good they can't ignore you. That doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't come from wishing. It comes from warping your identity around the mission until your name becomes synonymous with your craft. Until people hear your name and think of excellence. That's what obsession does. It remakes you. And eventually, it rewards you. Because in a world full of people who kind of want it, be the one who's dangerous enough to demand it. In a sea of hopefuls, be the one who builds in the silence of your grind. Let obsession be your anthem. And when the results finally arrive, when the world calls it luck or fate, just smile, because you'll know it wasn't magic. It wasn't chance. It was you, obsessed, focused, relentless, and completely unwilling to stop. The odds were never supposed to be in your favor. From the start, everything was stacked against you: your environment, your circumstances, your lack of resources, your background, your so-called limitations. The world had already made up its mind you're not the one. But what they didn't know was how far you were willing to go. What they didn't calculate was your work ethic. What they forgot to factor in was your obsession, your resilience, your refusal to back down. Because when you outwork the odds, you don't just win, you force the win. You break probability. You rewrite the script. You become the exception they swore couldn't exist. You become undeniable, not because it was easy, but because you made the grind your lifestyle. You didn't hope for luck. You built leverage through sweat. And when the time came, you cashed in. That's not chance. That's not coincidence. That's conquest. You see, most people quit when the odds feel too high. They freeze, they fold. They say maybe it's not meant to be. But winners, real winners, they double down. They train harder, they study deeper, they work longer. They don't pray for the odds to change. They become the kind of person who makes odds irrelevant. They don't care about 1 in 100. They tell themselves, then I'll be that one. They don't listen when people say it's impossible. They say, good, then I'll be the first. That's what outworking the odds looks like. It's not cute, it's not trendy, it's brutal, it's repetitive, it's lonely, but it works every time because effort compounds, because obsession pays off, because discipline is the only real shortcut. And here's what the world can't handle. The moment you go all in, the odds lose power. When you stop negotiating, when you stop checking the scoreboard, when you decide this is happening no matter what, you take control. The world can doubt you. The numbers can betray you. The system can be unfair, but you can still win. You can still break through, because no one can stop the person who refuses to quit. That's the scariest kind of opponent. Not the one with the most talent. Not the one with the loudest voice, but the one who keeps showing up. The one who keeps getting back up. The one who has nothing left but still keeps coming. That's what forces the win. It's not about having it all figured out. It's about being willing to do what others won't. While they rest, you rise. While they talk, you train. While they hope, you execute. Every hour you invest stacks up against the odds. Every rep, every risk, every uncomfortable decision. It's all building a wall of work that no statistic, number critic, no hater can climb over. And when the world finally sees what you've built, when the results are so loud they drown out the doubt, no one can deny you anymore because you earned it. You took every obstacle and turned it into proof. You used rejection as fuel. You used the pain to sharpen your purpose. You turned pressure into power. And in the end, the odds didn't matter. You became greater than them. Think about every person they said couldn't do it, and then did. Michael Jordan didn't make varsity. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for TV. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers. These people didn't beat the odds because they were lucky. They beat the odds because they outworked them. They kept moving. They kept believing. And more importantly, they kept producing. That's what matters. You don't need permission. You need performance. You don't need a perfect hand. You just need the courage to play it like a champion, because greatness is not decided by odds. It's decided by effort. So next time someone tells you the chances are slim, smile. Because you weren't aiming for average anyway. You weren't planning to blend in. You weren't hoping to be just one of the ones who tried. You're here to break barriers, to flip the narrative, to walk through fire with a smirk and say, watch me. Because when you outwork the odds, you shift the entire game. You don't get lucky, you get legendary. You don't beg for your moment, you create it. And when that moment comes, when your victory feels inevitable, No one can say a damn thing, because you didn't wait for the win. You earned it. You built it. You forced it.